Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. The Israelites have been scattered across the four corners of the earth, as prophesied in Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. Here in Israel United in Christ, we need your help to recover the remnant of our people, teach them the gospel. Please help us, support us, and join or donate to the Booster Club today. Shalom.
Let's get BibleHistory.com/archaeology of ancient Assyria. We're going to start with ancient Assyrian policy. We're going to stop at people.
Ancient Assyrian policy was to deport defeated nations that led them captive to other lands. This would destroy their sense of nationalism.
Here we go again. This would destroy their sense of nationalism or power or pride in their race. Go ahead.
And force them to be more willing to submit.
Oh, that's what that does. Assimilation makes you want to be more submissive or docile or complacent or a Negro today or Hispanic today. Go ahead.
The Assyrians were miraculous in warfare. In fact, military strategists today have a difficult time understanding how the Assyrians were so advanced in their military tactics. Most of the nations plundered other nations, but Assyria was the worst.
Assyria was the worst. Go ahead.
They were the very definition of a plunderer.
Bahar, Halal, Hashbaz. Quick to the plunder, swift to the spoil. Go ahead.
Because the Lord had raised them up to plunder his rebellious people.
So they were a special plunderer for his special rebellious people. The Most High is no joke. Read the part right there.
The Assyrians were also diabolically cruel.
Like throwing you off of a wall when Toba would bury you. Go ahead.
They skinned their victims alive. Cut off their hands, feet, noses, ears, eyes. That
sound familiar? That sound like Columbus and them. The curses are generational. They happen over and over and over again.
Don't get it twisted. Nobody's worse than this cruel beast that had us.
Yeah, he is the worst of the worst.
Okay, because I know some people will look at this and say, well, you know what? Esau ain't that bad. He didn't do this to us.
No.
He did way worse than this.
He got his skills from them.
He did way worse than this.
And doubled it.
Y'all just don't know about all what he did.
Yep. Read. The Assyrians were what?
The Assyrians were also diabolically cruel. They skinned their victims alive, cut off their hands, feet, noses, ears, eyes, pulled out tongues.
They did cut out the eyes. Remember Zechariah, the last king of Israel, they cut his son, they killed his sons in front of him and cut his eyes out. That's what they did. And there's a picture of them on a stone where they made us walk with chains in our tongues. And they would drag us as they would do to us. Go ahead.
Made mounds of heads.
When they would conquer their heads, they would have a palm tree set up and throw it and hang heads in the tree. That's where ornaments come from. Christmas ornaments come from. Go ahead.
Made mounds of heads and many more atrocities to inspire terror in those who were demanded to pay tribute.
Which he had Hezekiah do, Menahem do, Hosea do. We read that earlier. That's all I want. Let's go back to the PDF and continue where we left off. It should say, however.
However,
we're going to stop at past events.
However, the general deportation praxis of the Assyrian authorities consisted in the resettlement of homogeneous communities.
Meaning they stayed to themselves. Homogeneous means one race. Meaning they did not assimilate. You had some that were taken that fled there that stuck to their own kind. They did not adapt to the nonsense of assimilation. They stayed to their own people. Like Tobit did with his wife in Assyria. Same thing. He wasn't the only one. Go ahead.
In order to sustain high morale and the will to live and to work.
So as long as they did that, they were allowed to stay together. Go ahead.
Also, traces of Israelite deportees having maintained their identity can be found in Assyrian documents.
See, like Tobit. Go ahead.
From 7th century Guzana, showing that some of these people were incorporated into the Assyrian army.
When we fought in their army, when the Egyptians and the Assyrians got together to fight against the Babylonians, we lost and we fled with them into Africa, the Nile Valley and beyond, further west. Go ahead.
While others were employed in the administration.
Like Tobit was the purveyor. His nephew was the accounts, over the accounts. Go ahead.
Since moreover, Israelites are well known for their strong feelings of identity based on firm religious bonds.
Stop. Read that again. Read that again.
Since, moreover, Israelites are well known.
They were well known for what?
For their strong feelings of identity.
Stop. For their strong feelings of identity. Now you're called a terrorist when you do that. Now you're a terrorist now. And they put black in front of it to mock you. Go ahead.
Based on firm religious bonds.
Based upon the Bible. Go ahead.
It is unlikely that during their relatively short Assyrian exile, extending over slightly more than 100 years, they were absorbed by Assyrians or Arameans.
Syrians. Go ahead.
In the regions such as Hobor Gozan, where they seem to have settled in homogeneous groups.
Meaning they stayed to their own kind while living among the Syrians and the Assyrians. Go ahead.
From a comparative analysis of Oyo dynastic tradition and ancient Near Eastern history, it appears that Israelites migrated to West Africa subsequently to the fall of the Assyrian Empire.
So he makes it clear right here. It is clear that the Israelites migrated to West Africa subsequently to the fall of the Assyrian Empire, and that their descendants survived as the core people of the present day Oyo Yoruba. That's Northern Kingdom over there, majority, with mixtures of Judah as well. Go ahead. We're going to stop at past events. Go ahead.
Indeed, Oyo tradition reveals that the ancestral Yoruba were mainly composed of Israelites, who in the course of their history became influenced by Assyrian views of past events.
They would start to take the culture of the past events of the Assyrian history and merge it into our own. Why? Because of assimilation. Like we say, yeah, we went into space. Yay, we got a new president. It's the same nonsense.
Right. Our astronauts.
We sick, boss. We sick. Same thing. Go ahead.
They won't even let them on the base. They talking about some our astronauts.
Leave them on the moon. Strand them there. Leave them there. Sweep the moon, nigga. Go ahead. Indeed.
Providing precious details about the ancient Near Eastern history of their ancestors, it begins with some information on the
No. I want to stop at past events. Go back to Oyo tradition reveals that they're ancestral.
Indeed. Oyo tradition reveals that the ancestral Yoruba were mainly composed of Israelites, who in the course of their history became influenced by Assyrian views of past events.
Based upon assimilation. Those who gave in into the sunken place. Go to page 593. We're going to be the bottom left. Page 593, bottom left. Let's see where that word comes from, Yoruba comes from. Based upon their studies. Right there, 20. Go down some more. Blow it up big so everybody can see it at the bottom. Where it says 20 next to it to the left. Blow it up. Blow it up, blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. More. Smaller. Go down. Read that, please. Mm-hmm.
In line with the Israelite figures of Ajaka.
So remember, they gave Assyrian names. Remember, they took our culture, the names of Assyrian oppressors, and our forefathers and merged them together through assimilation. So they called Isaac Ajaka. Go ahead.
In line with the Israelite figures of Ajaka Isaac,
So Ajaka, according to oral tradition, relates to Isaac. That's who Isaac is. Go ahead.
Oranian Jacob,
That's Jacob.
and Oluasu
Joash, another king. Go ahead.
The Yoruba names seem to be derived from Jeroboam. May the people be great. The name of the founder of the northern kingdom of Israel.
Jeroboam. Yoruba is Jeroboam. That's what it means. Go to page 581. 581. 581. So Ephraim is over there. The northern kingdom, that's why I named it Jeroboam, based upon the founder, the king over the northern kingdom. Now, here's a map right here. I want you to pay close attention. It says, what I want this for. I want this for, okay, to examine the map. Look at the Assyria. See the deportation? Mm-hmm. You see when Assyria was overthrown by Babylon, you see Assyria there, Assyria Media. They were placed in the place of the Medes. You have Babylonian at the bottom. Elam represents Persians. The Elamites are Persians. Elam is Persia, same place, or Iran, same people. And you have Media, which would be the northern Iran, Media, which would be Japheth. And then you have right here Assyria, right? See it? Next to Media, on the right. See where they're going? They're going down toward the west into Egypt. This is northern kingdom now, as Assyria was being overthrown by the Babylonians. And you have some they're going down to Egypt. They made their way to the Kanem-Bornu Empire. Some went further up and made their way down. So they all met up to the same place. So they went south. Some went toward northwest. Some went to the south, and they went also toward the west, southwest, northwest, southwest. Y'all see? And they all met up here. It says Kanem-Bornu Empire. Keep in mind, Kanem-Bornu, you see Hausa there. Kanem-Bornu Empire. Because among the Hausa, among them, some of us are among them. Because that's primarily Ham there, Hausa. Now go down some. You see Hausa, where the arrow goes. See where the arrow goes. Yoruba. Look at that. Right there, Yoruba. Ghana right there, Songhai. Keep that in mind. Songhai and Kanem-Bornu. Keep those words in mind. Songhai is either spelled Songhai or Hay. It's either one. And you either have the word Kanem-Bornu or Bornu Empire. They'll take Kanem out, but it's the same place. All right? So keep those in mind. Darfur, Nubia. Remember he mentioned that in this thing, how they migrated from Nubia, from Egypt, via Egypt. You remember that? And then they had trade relations with the Phoenician North Africans, which would be Tunis or Tunisia today, on the top, which would be northwest, up, right above Mauritania. Is it there? Yeah. Libya Phoenicians is Carthage, right? That's Carthage right there. So they have relations with them because Ephraim was already there. So they met up with them. Oh, hey, brothers, come on, you over here already? Cool. All right. Family. So now, let's go to Jewish Diaspora now. Jewish Diaspora, page, it's volume 2, page 454. We're going to read in later. Jewish Diaspora, we're going to read in later. And we're going to stop at the word region. On page 454. It should say, on page 454, it should say in later centuries. In Jewish Diaspora. That's this book right here with the devils in the cover and the weird hats. That's this book here, volume 2. Page 454. And right there you go. See, you get a picture of the devils. Lighting candles for Satan. Page 454. Each candle for each devil. Page 454, we're going to read Migration to Sub-Saharan Africa.
Migrations into sub-Saharan Africa.
We're going to stop at region, yep. So in later centuries. Yep.
In later centuries, Jews are believed to have settled in Western Africa during the height of the Songhai.
Stop, remember that? We read it in that map. We saw on the map. Songhai, go ahead.
Mali.
Which is right next to Mauritania. You have Mauritania there, and you have Mali right next door. Go ahead.
Songhai, Mali, Ghana, and Kanem-Bornu empires.
Jews were believed to have settled there. That's referring to Judah, by the way. But Ephraim did before them. Go ahead.
According to accounts from explorers of the region,
Like Dirk Lang, he was spent 30 years there. Go ahead.
several powerful Jewish families of the Songhai Empire
Of the Songhai Empire, where Ephraim fled to as well. Go ahead.
were of Jewish origin
Or Israelite origin. Go ahead.
until Askia Muhammad
Islamization
came to power.
came into, go ahead.
And in 1492,
During the Spanish Inquisition. Go ahead.
decreed that all Jews either convert to Islam or leave the region.
If they couldn't leave, what happened to them? They got sold. They got sold. I want a Kanem Bonu map. I sent you that. The Kanem Bonu map. Where it is in modern time, or it is in modern times. I want y'all to get that. I sent you also the Kanem. I sent you a Google link, I think, of a modern day. There you go. Click the one in the far right, the blue, the red line around it. Yeah, that one. Click that one. That's the Kanem modern day Kanem Bonu Empire. Click that. Blow it up. I want y'all to get a good look at it. Take a good look at that. Okay. If you can blow that up, there we go. Thank you very much. That's Kanem Bonu right there. That area right there is the Kanem Bonu Empire. See it? 600 BC to 1376. Because by that time, you had the Kanem Bonu Empire because Islam started taking over. So keep that in mind. See that big red line circle right there? That's what the empire was right there. All right? Keep that portion of Africa in mind. Go to page 451 now. In Nigeria, we're going to stop at Yoruba,
In Nigeria, the Igbo
which would be Hebrews. Go ahead.
may be descended from the southern.
No, there's no maybe. Don't fall for the semantics of Edom. Maybe. You know how Esau do. Possibly. Maybe. It's a possibility that maybe they may. No. Are descended. Go ahead.
May be descended from the southern and western migrations of ancient Semitic peoples and later Jewish peoples from the Middle East into West Africa.
Now notice it says western migrations of ancient Semitic peoples and later Jewish peoples. Ancient Semitics goes into when the Assyrians were overthrown, when the Syrians fled there also, and when Ephraim fled there. Then Judah came later on and met up with them. Go ahead. You stop on the top again.
In Nigeria, the Igbo may be descended from the southern and western migrations of ancient Semitic peoples and later Jewish peoples from the Middle East into West Africa. There are three groups: Beni Gat,
Northern Kingdom,
said to have descended from the tribe of Gat. The eighth son of Jacob, Beni Zebulon.
Zebulon was there. You know what Zebulon was. We'll get to that later. Go ahead.
From the tribe of Zebulon, the fifth son of Jacob. And Beni Manasseh, Beni Ephraim.
Watch this. Beni Ephraim, go ahead.
Are different from other Nigerian Jewish groups.
Based upon what Esau says, because they're all in the same region, but he divided them. Beni Ephraim are different from other Nigerian Jewish groups. Why?
As they live among the Yoruba.
Among who?
Among the Yoruba.
Why would Ephraim be living among the Yoruba? Because they're the same thing. It's the same tribe of people. You understand? So when Ephraim fled along with Gad and Manasseh and Zebulun, he went where Ephraim was. I'm going to go with Yorubas. That's my people over there. You understand? We kept relations. We didn't stop. Now, let's get the Bible Atlas. I want the Assyrian captivity map. The Assyrian captivity map. Right there. Assyrian supremacy in the 7th century. See that? Assyrian supremacy. This is the purple is where Assyria conquered. That's all theirs. So when you go down to the bottom left, you see Egypt is in that too. So when Israel fled there, they got conquered there too. So what did Ephraim do also when they saw Egypt getting conquered? They moved further west. Let's get out of Egypt. Okay, this ain't working. Egypt ain't working right now. Let's move. And they moved further out. Egypt get smashed. And they moved further west, or some went further south, and they all, like we showed you earlier, they went and met up. They all met up in them zones in that map earlier in that PDF I showed y'all. They all met up. That's why I got this. Go to Babylonian now. Because the Assyrians maintained the doctrine of assimilation, and the Babylonians maintained the same thing. Because ancient Babylon with Nimrod pushed the same thing. Assimilate, all come one, all become one. Then the Persians came and said you can have your freedom, be who you are. do you want, the Persians introduced liberals to the world. Be liberal, do you. Do what you want to do. Just don't bother us. Do you, let us rule over you. That's why we can able to build the temple during that time, because we had liberality to do so. And the Greeks came with the ideal of assimilation again. That's Hellenization. Then the Romans came with the same. And the Romans came with both Persian and Greek ideals. You have freedom, but you still gotta deal with the political system. You understand? So it just merged all together. It's a mishmash. America took all of that and merged it, made it into one. Jewish exiles in Babylonia. You see, notice you see on that page too. You see Jewish exiles in Babylonia right there. Blow it up so you'll see Babylon. I'm gonna go to the other side after this. You see where it says Assyria is in green. So it says Jewish exiles in Babylonia. So we were taken. Go down. The red line represents us being taken. See that? Judah, Jerusalem, we're being taken over to Babylonia. You see Assyria there, it's in the green. Wherever the green is what Babylon took over. So those Assyria is in the green line, in the green color, meaning it's taken over. Go over to the next page. That's why, exactly, that's why you fled there. Go up to the top of the page. Right there, Jewish refugees in Egypt. Because when the Babylonians came against us, we fled into Egypt. Okay, we fled there. Let's go to Jeremiah 50, verse 17. Jeremiah 50, verse 17.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 17. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria.
Notice this, Israel means the whole nation is a scattered sheep. First, what?
First, the king of Assyria.
Conquered northern kingdom.
Hath devoured him. And last, this Nebuchadnezzar.
Babylon.
King of Babylon hath broken his bones.
Have broken his bones. Go ahead.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria.
Because he had the Persians conquer the Babylonians. The same way he had the Babylonians conquer the Assyrians. Let's go to both kingdoms were conquered together. You understand? Now let's go to the YouTube video. We're going to stop at 6:30. What happened to the 10 lost tribes of Israel? This is a guy that's basically asked to ask questions while on video people have for people he talks to. In this case, people of Israel. He said, okay, I was asked to ask these questions, so I'm going to ask them. We're going to stop at 6:30. Remember what the guy said? That the myth of them being assimilated and done away with is based upon a myth without historical foundation. Remember that? Go ahead.
ואיפה כל השבטים האחרים? איפה 10 השבטים?
יש 10 שבטים, נמצאים בעבר הסמבטים, ככה כתוב בכמה מקומות.
Stop. God. They just lie off the top. They are found among the Sambantian River. The Sambantian River is a place that they say is in Africa. It's a river that flows very strongly. The word Sambantian is a Greek form of the word Sabbath. It is a river that flows very strong, and while it flows very strong, it throws rocks. Then they say that during the Sabbath, the water's calm. But because we can't swim on the Sabbath, we can't cross it. Ephraim managed to cross it, but Judah can't because they can't swim on the Sabbath. And that's how Israel got in Africa. They fell across this mythical river. And in the Jewish encyclopedia I have, it says that is based upon it's unauthenticated. It's a fiction that they say came from a man named Eldad the Danite. His accounts are unauthenticated nonsense. Now, is Ephraim a northern kingdom in Africa? Yes, but the river Sambantion is a fairy tale. It makes no damn sense. Go ahead. So that's their reason for saying we can't go get them, because where they're at, the river is so strong, we can only cross it on the Sabbath, but we can't swim on the Sabbath, so we can't get Ephraim. So only Judah is in Israel now. This is what they say. But we're the cult. We're the crazy ones. Play it, please.
נהר הסמבטיון. יש נהר שככה מובא במקומות, מקורות, שיש נהר שזורק אבנים במשך כל הזמן, וכבר חיפשו את זה, ופה לא מצאו את זה, אבל אמרו מעבר לנהר, הם שלחו אותם לגלות, ומאז לא רואים אותם, ומצד השני של אותו נהר הם נמצאים שם.
אתה יודע איפה הנהר הזה? אני לא...
לא, כבר דיברו על זה שזה נמצא באיזשהו מקום בפקיסטן, אבל היה כל מיני דיבורים בכל מיני מקומות, אני כבר שמעתי על זה. סמבטיון זה נקרא, וזה בגמרא גם אומרת שיש מושג כזאת, שיש נהר שזורק אבנים ובשבת זה שובת. ובשבת אסור לשחות, אז אנשים משם לא יכולים לעבור משם לכאן.
מה 10 השבטים?
Now, Paul, this guy is Elisha. Now, there's remnants of our people who are among leaders like us. He says that he's Dan, because from what I understand, I believe the Israelis told him that they're Dan. Because many Israelites, especially Southern Kingdom, fled into Ethiopia and in that area of Northeast Africa. And a lot of the Palashas come from that area. So to say that they're Dan, I'm not buying it. But that's their way of saying all of the top kingdom of Israel, the Judah, that's the white folks. But all the mingled around, insignificant, lost ones is the black ones. The black ones. The only ones they say is them will be Lemba. But by saying that the Lemba are lead, they say the Lemba's DNA is of Cohen, meaning high priest lineage, and that they are of Levi. Well, if the Lembas are of Levi, how do Lembas look like this here? Look like us, and then the other half looks like this. It's madness. It's madness. That doctrine is nonsense in itself. Let's continue.
נהדרים, אנחנו רואים שכאילו היה יהודה ו-12 שבטים, אחד זה יהודה, השני זה ישראל, והיו עוד 10, שהבבלים, לא, הסורים. כן, נכון, ראובן, אפרים, זה, מה קרה להם, לפי דעתך?
הרגו, התפצלו לזה.
אז איפה הם היום? זה מה שהם שואלים בחול.
נכון, אחרי חורבן שני, נשארו רק שבט יהודה נשאר בתוך בית המקדש. אחרי בית המקדש שנחרב, התפזרו לרחבי הארץ.
אז איפה הם היום?
הם היו בגולה, עכשיו כרגע זה קיבוץ גלויות.
אתה חושב שהם עדיין כאילו קיימים כיהודים או...
טכנית, נגיד אנחנו משבט דן.
אתיופים, אתם חושבים שאתם שבט דן?
כן.
לא ידעתי את זה.
הם צאצאים של עזרא ונחמיה.
Stop. Do what he said? We are descendants of Nehemiah and Ezra. That's not Dan. That's Levi and Judah. That's not Dan. So I know that the Israelis put that in their mind. You're Danites. No. Because during the Babylonian time, when the Babylonians came into power, Israel fled into Egypt. And we're going to read that. And then they migrated further south into the Horn of Africa, which would be Somalia there, Ethiopia and so forth, or Addis Ababa, in that area. So he's saying that they're descendants of Nehemiah and Ezra, but they're Danites? That doesn't make no sense. That's how I know, based upon what he's saying, based upon this video here, that the Israelis told them, you guys are Danites. Because if they say that they're from Nehemiah and Ezra, that means that Nehemiah and Ezra would be black like them. You understand? So they have to save face. Well, yeah, or the Lembas, yeah, based upon their spittle and our spittle combined. No, stop. No, they're trying to be slick. So by him saying that, lets me know, based upon what he's saying, I could be wrong, but based upon what he's saying, them being called them saying that they're Danites is what the Israelis called them when they let them in the land under the order of Operation Moses in 1984. They airlifted them into Israel and they treat them like garbage over there, beat on them, killing them, all of that stuff. But they're descendants of Nehemiah and Ezra, but they're Danites. Don't add up. Continue.
שמה? לא שמעתי.
הם צאצאים של עזרא ונחמיה, שהם גלו
Stop. We are from the tribe of Judah. Say we're from Southern Kingdom. You hear what he's saying? That's what they say among themselves, but the public says they're Dan. So we're watching the news. They're saying they found Dan, but among themselves they're saying that we're descendants of Nehemiah and Ezra. Don't add up. Continue.
הם היו בדרך תימן.
Stop. On their way, they left Yemen. Now, Yemen, if you look at a map of Yemen. If you take a boat in the Indian Ocean, Yemen is right above Ethiopia. It's right there. Get a map. I'll show you. Get a map real quick. Hold that real quick. Get a map of Yemen. I'm going to show you where it is. You cross the water, Indian Ocean, you're right in Ethiopia. You're right there. There you go. Eritrea is Ethiopia, same place. Yemen is right there. Look, you go right across the Gulf of Aden, you're right there. So that Dan thing don't add up to me. Does not make any sense. That's why the Most High said Dan will fall as the tribe. That's why Esau says you're Dan on purpose, because he knows the history of Dan. Go out. Go back to the video again. Stop at 6:30. I'll be quiet.
והלכו קצת ימינה. אוקיי.
בגלל זה יש גם בגנים קצת דומה בין התימנים לקפים.
כן, נכון. Okay. What do you think happened to the lost 10 tribes of Israel?
I think they got scattered around, and some of them are still here, but most of them are everywhere around the...
Who do you think they are? Like, could you point to a group?
Not really, I don't know. I've never thought about it. Sorry.
Okay. You have anything to say?
I think they're mixed up with other nations and you can't really separate them out anymore.
Okay. Is there, I think what people are asking is there like a certain tribe in India or Africa that you're looking at?
I don't think it's any of those people who have been...
Stop.
They were scattered.
Heard what you said? Whoever they pointed out, I don't think it's them. Them Falashas, nah, that ain't them. They ain't. See what happened? I'm telling you, he's in the land asking the people themselves. Go ahead, watch what she says.
10 tribes. I think they were scattered and disseminated.
Okay. Now, as Israelis, if for let's say the Rabbanut decides that they're Jews, would it be okay they become Israelis?
Of course.
Of course. Sure.
מה קרה ל10 שבטים?
מה קרה?
כן, איפה הם?
הם חיים עד היום בתוכנו, אבל כל אחד מפורד.
בתוכנו פה בארץ?
יכול להיות בארץ, יכול להיות גם מחוץ לארץ, אני לא יודע בדיוק.
אצל יהודים?
אי אפשר לדעת, את זה אני לא יודע. אני לא חי שם.
מה השאלה?
מה קרה ל10 השבטים שבזמן הסורים הם זרקו אותם? כן.
אחד הלך לבבל, אחד הלך לפה, חסר לאן.
נעלמו ברחבי העולם. בני מנשה הגיעו עכשיו מהודו, שים אותם, זה לא, יש במדינה קיימת, באוכלוסייה היהודית, נטמעו גם...
said that Manasseh is the Indians. East Indians. They found them in East India. Go ahead.
עשרת השבטים, אבל בגלות הם נעלמו, זאת אומרת, נעלמו עקבותיהם, בעיקרון.
אבל נגיד שהם מוצאים אותם בהודו, או יש...
הגיעו, בני מנשה הגיעו.
אוקיי, בסדר, אבל נגיד שבאפריקה מוצאים כל מיני שבטים כאלה, אתה מאמין שהם גם יהודים?
כן. אולי במשך השנים לא את המסורת כמו כולנו, כמו בדת פה, אבל כן, הם יהודים.
כן. מקובל עליך גם? שהם יהודים.
מי? אני לא יודע אם אני יהודי, אתה שואל אותי אם הם יהודים.
What do you think happened to the 10 lost tribes?
10? Not 12?
No, we're 12 tribes. Shit, now 10 of them are lost. In the end, there was Israel and Judah.
Judah, okay.
And that's kind of why we're called Jews, but I'll get someone else to because I don't know the history that well either. But 10 of them were dispersed from the Assyrians.
Okay.
So the question is, where do you think the descendants are of those 10 lost tribes?
I think the descendants are fulfilling God's promise. They're coming back to the land.
Yeah? Okay, who is that exactly?
Me, for example. I came.
They should all already be in the land. When Israel came out of Egypt, he took all of them all at once. He didn't just take them in sections. So they should all be there. That's how you know they're not fulfilling any prophecy whatsoever. They know this. Go ahead.
I came from Brazil.
Okay.
So I'm one lost tribe that's here.
But are you genetically Jewish?
Yeah.
So you'd be part of Judah, not the other tribes.
Well, I mean, who decides that? How do you know that?
Good point. I don't know. Maybe there's a genetic test.
When
No
I got
clue.
here, they said, "Oh, your mom is Jewish or your dad is Jewish," and I said, "What's the point? Are you asking me about my religion or about my blood?"
Okay.
So
And what did you answer?
I said, if it's because of my blood, I'm Jewish because my dad was Jewish. My mom is Jewish, but I came with the documents of my dad. so they don't decide that I'm Jewish here.
Oh yeah, you have to prove your mother's Jewish for religious
So
Judaism.
that's religion. That's not even in the Bible, because the Bible is from the seed of man. You see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
That's right.
So when you start looking at the Bible, you start seeing the real answers to the questions. But when you look at tradition of man and tradition of people, you start going on rabbit trails. That's what I believe. And also I ask.
Not all of them are stupid. Some are real smart. You come to the Bible.
But it's good that he said that, because people call us and they tell us that they're Jews because of their moms. He's the first European I ever heard admit that the Bible says you were an Israelite according to the seed of your father. So it's good he admitted that, because it shows that people know. Who's propagating the lie? Esau. Esau's the one saying your mom's, your mother, your mother. Okay, that's why when they try to denounce Christ, his lineage, they give you the lineage of Mary. And they start telling you, you're an Israelite because look at Mary. They say, you see, it says she had seed. She had seed. And all it's talking about is she was carrying a child. It's not talking about the seed that produces a human being, the sperm. Okay? But the trick that they use, that Edomite straightened it out. He said the Bible says it's the seed of man. If a woman is carrying seed, that just means she's pregnant. She don't have, her body without a baby inside of it ain't carrying no damn seed. So it's good that European said that.
Mm-hmm. Jeremiah 4, verse 11. Jeremiah 40:11.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 40 and verse 11. Likewise, when all the Jews that were in Moab...
Because when Babylon rose up, Israel got scared and they ran to foreign lands to avoid the onslaught that the Babylonians brought to Jerusalem. When they burned the temple down, the Edomites not burned their houses down, took people captive. Read it again.
Likewise, when all the Jews that were in Moab and among the Ammonites and in Edom...
You fled there too, go ahead.
...and that were in all the countries... heard that the king of Babylon had left a remnant of Judah.
Let some of us live and stay there. Go ahead.
And that he had set over them Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan.
So he set up a puppet leader. He said, listen, you guys can stay here as long as this guy Gedaliah is over you. Go in Judah, in Jerusalem. Go to 41 verse 16. Watch what happened to him.
Jeremiah chapter 41 verse 16. Then took Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, all the remnant of the people whom he had recovered from Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah.
Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, killed Gedaliah and took them captive. He was working for the Ammonites. So Nethaniah, this guy Ishmael, took his people, killed Gedaliah, and tried to take them captive. And then Johanan recovered them. Go ahead.
From Mizpah. After that, he had slain Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam.
So keep in mind, Gedaliah was slain by Ishmael, and Johanan took over. Go ahead.
Even mighty men of war, and the women and the children and the eunuchs, whom he had brought again from Gibeon.
Go ahead.
And they departed and dwelt in the habitation of Shimham, which is by Bethlehem, to enter into Egypt.
So they were going to go into Bethlehem, then from there they were going to go right into Egypt. Next door, go ahead.
Because of the Chaldeans, for they were afraid of them, because Ishmael the son of Nethaniah had slain Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, whom the king of Babylon made governor in the land.
So they wanted to flee into Egypt out of fear of the Babylonians, based upon what Gedaliah was killed. Because he was killed. They got scared. They wanted to go to Egypt. When you read chapter 42, verse 7-17, Jeremiah prophesies that if you do that, the Lord is going to kill y'all there in Egypt. So what did Israel do? Israel said, okay, some of them stayed there and died. Some said, let's just go further out of Egypt. They went further west again. Let's get, read that already, the refugees, Egypt, that was already, they did it too fast. That was too fast. I shouldn't have went there. But I showed you that map earlier with the refugees in Egypt. So that map. Let's go to the next video. Go to Harry Rosenberg talking to Ebo. So we're going to stop at 10:18. Harry Rosenberg talking to Ebo. His name is Remy Lamo, something like that. Remy Loma? Loma. Yeah.
Remy Ilona.
Eloma, right. He wrote a number of books regarding the history of Israelites being within Africa, him being an Igbo himself. Blow it up. We're going to watch 10 minutes of it. Just try to stomach it as much as you can. It's good. Just try to stomach this guy here, like I do. Let's play. Now, this guy, I give Harry Rosenberg some credit. He does, in fact, admit that Israel is, in fact, over there. But, of course, it's half-assed, of course. It's partial.
Hello. Here we are in Jerusalem. I'm Harry Rosenberg, and this is Remy Ilona. Remy has traveled here from Nigeria, well, really from Florida. He's studying at the Florida International University, but he comes from Nigeria, from the Igbo tribe, otherwise pronounced Igbo.
Because, like always, Edom assists them in certain things in Africa. He assists them. And so that's why he's there. When Israel discovers that Israel, here comes Edom saying, I'm going to teach you how to be Israel now. Now that you figured it out. We don't need your help. We know we are. We're good. But that's what he does. And then with the teaching comes assistance and money and funding, and that's when they buy you off and say that you're the converts. Exactly. So we're going to, that proceeds into that conversation after 10 minutes. So we're going to stop at 10:18. Go ahead.
That's Igbo. And Remy's a scholar, was a lawyer in Nigeria, and dropped what he was doing to research the legend or the tradition in his tribe that they actually come from the, I wouldn't use the word the lost tribes of Israel, but I will, the lost tribes of Israel, from the scattered Israelites from 2,000 plus years ago. Remy has done a lot of research and written a few books on the topic. The Igbo people number, I think, about 40 million people, so we're about to have a conversation, and I think it will get interesting. So you're saying that the Igbo are from the tribes of Israel. Now,
Yes.
are you saying this, or are the people on the ground in Nigeria also saying this?
Every Igbo says that the Igbos came from Israel. The 40 million Igbo people say that they came from Israel. And an opinion poll has been done. Daniel Lees, who earned his PhD studying the Igbos, who worked at the University of Basel and the Tel Aviv University, conducted an opinion poll. He interviewed 500 Igbos, some in Nigeria, some in Europe, some in America, some in Israel, and 497 say that they believe that Igbos came from Israel, and one said that he has had it, but that he doesn't believe. Two said that they don't believe, but they spoke further, and it was clear that why they don't believe is because they have the wrong notion that there are white people and the black people in the world, and they wrongly believe that the people of Israel are white. They didn't know about the existence of the Ethiopian Jews. And they also did not take cognizance of the fact that a lot of Igbos could comfortably fall into the category of white people from their complexions.
I understand. So time out. This is pretty fascinating. You're saying that there's 40 million people in Nigeria who have an identity that they come from the house of Israel, from the people of Israel.
Yeah, who also have oral traditions to back it up, and whose lived experiences are unquestionably Jewish.
So now I'd like to ask you furthermore. You said that it's not a simple idea that was planted in your mind that you're from the people of Israel. You have oral tradition, and your entire culture reflects Israelite culture, so to say.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to give an example or one or two. Let me ask you a question first before you do. A simple thing. Do you circumcise on the 8th day?
Every Igbo is circumcised on the 8th day, and the Igbo people have been circumcising their males on the 8th day since immemorial times. Yeah.
Fascinating. And now you have a word for the Torah or for God in your culture?
The Igbo word or the Igbo phrase for the Igbo culture is omenana. If you translate it to English, what you have is things, commandments you observe in the land.
Uh-huh. Well, that's interesting, because when you look at the Torah, a lot of it is based on the actual things that we have to do when we're in the land of Israel.
Yeah. We made sure we retain that, so that because the retention of that helped us to observe the commandments.
And now at the time that the Igbo went into exile, I'm trying to put this into perspective of when this happened so we understand what culture they might have retained and what happened in Israel after they left. So this was around the Babylonian exile, the Igbo were?
Yes. My probing indicates that we were the group that moved into Egypt while you were the group that moved into Babylon. We are taken into Babylon.
Right, so historically, this was at the destruction of the first temple before the second temple was built.
Absolutely.
And the Jews, quote unquote, the Judeans, were exiled into Babylon, but not 100% of them went into Babylon. We even know some were left in the land, but a lot of them were exiled south into Africa as well.
Yeah, the Torah says that a large part of them trying to evade Babylon, which came to exact retribution for the killing of Gedaliah, moved into Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
what he said, from Gedaliah, after the slaying of Gedaliah, they fled into Egypt. They're in Jeremiah 40. So he's telling you. Go ahead.
And from Egypt, you can trace your travels all the way throughout Africa, where you ended up in Nigeria how many years ago?
We have been in Nigeria more than 1,000 years, but I think we lived around North Africa and other parts of West Africa for at least 1,000 years, and the roots are very, very clear. Because life continued in the roots until even modern times.
So here's where I'm going with this. So you left Israel at the time of the Babylonian exile. You were in Africa. So by the time that the Judeans returned to Israel with the Second Temple, with Ezra and Nehemiah, and came back from, not all of them came back, but a large percentage did.
Remember, that's what that guy, that Palasha, said in the boat, on the bus, that he's the descendant of Nehemiah and Ezra. And he died, it was in Ethiopia. Remember, he said the same thing, that they also fled during the time of the slaying of Gedaliah from Egypt, and they went further south. If you go further south of Egypt, you're going to land in the Horn of Africa, which would be Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia on the right-hand side. You understand? Or if you're from Yemen, you cross that water, the Gulf of Aden, you're right there. So by them acknowledging that the Igbos are Jews, they have to acknowledge them as Southern Kingdom. That debunks him entirely. That's why he's saying it earlier. He's saying the co-signers, they believe that we're Jews, and they don't believe, but they believe. We don't care what they believe. He does, but we don't. We know that we're the Israelites. That's why they say, oh, you're Dan. They can't say all of them are Southern Kingdom, because that debunks the Israelis entirely. You understand? Go ahead.
They settled the land, and they started to codify the law and write down laws of Israel. And eventually, a few hundred years later, they redacted the laws, and they made an oral law, and this became what the Jewish law is today. But by the time that was all happening, you were already deep in Africa, lost.
Yeah. But interestingly, to show you that those laws belong to all of Israel, we see those laws that the people that went to Babylon codified in Omenana. Yeah. Everything that was codified and called the oral law, the Mishnah, Gemara, and the Talmud, you find them.
Because remember, Israel adopted the Babylonian customs and merged into Judaism, and that's how the Babylonian Talmud and so forth was introduced into our lives, and it was passed down through oral tradition. When the Babylonians came into power, many of the Israelites fled into areas of Europe. Later on, they fled into Europe. They resided there for a long time. And then when Dark Ages, you had the Byzantine Empire, and you had the Islam coming forward. They were pushing Muslim on this side, Christian on this side. So many of the Israelites who were Babylonian Jews, who observed Babylonian Judaism, they fled from the persecution of the Christian Israelites or Romans. And they fled into a place that's neutral of both religions, both Islam and Judaism, which would be the Khazars, who didn't deal with either one. They were liberal. So many of us fled into the areas of Europe among the Khazar Edomites, and that's where the Khazar Edomites get the Talmud from. Then they added their own nonsense later on into it. You understand? Continue.
In Omenan as well, which means that the group in Babylon simply wrote it down, while the group that moved into Egypt and moved into the hinterland of Africa continue to live it.
And this is
obvious. Some of us fled into Iraq. We kept it on paperwork. Others of us just maintained it through oral tradition because of fear of Islam over time. We started just doing it out of tradition, so they couldn't burn our thing. We just memorized it. That's what he's saying. Go ahead.
Your book, so speak about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think on the title of your book you said the largest Jewish diaspora.
The Igbos and Israel, an intercultural study of the largest Jewish diaspora.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Okay, so we can move on a little bit now. Now, You and I are having this conversation. Does anyone else in the world know about this? I recall, I'd like to bring up, we were at a university together, actually at a scholarly conference where there was professors there from Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, University of Utah, and this conference was specifically designated to talking about the Igbo-Israel connection. We both spoke at this conference. How did you feel about that conference?
That conference was very, very good because it was an opportunity for people in academia to have access to what we call primary sources. Because all along we know that they have not had access to primary sources. They have relied mainly on works done by people that did not know the culture and did not know the history very well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's amazing. I spoke alongside you there, and we addressed something very interestingly. Not only did we make it very clear and understandable that there is a connection with the Igbo tribes and the people of Israel. There's a history and it's real, and we're going to move forward doing something together. I also spoke about something which could be a little controversial, which is the Hebrew Israelite phenomenon in America. We have descendants of the transatlantic slave trade identifying with being of the children of Israel. Now, can you tell me, in this transatlantic slave trade, was there any Igbo blood?
31% of the African American population is believed to be of Igbo ancestry, because Igbo land suffered more from the slave trade than any other part of Africa. And the Igbos, we are
Stop. The largest slave trade came out of Igbos. And the Yorubas are right next door. 60%. But then you have Wicked Jake saying, well, now all Negroes go back to Igbo. I got news for y'all, though. Many Israelites were sold out of Spain. Many of them were sold out of Spain and out of South Africa, which did not identify themselves as Igbos in those parts of the world, but as Moors or Jews that were sold out of Europe and speaking Spanish, with Spanish last names, then were changed to English or British names on both the Caribbean. So not just only Igbos and Yorubas are sold, but even Israelites who are not under those names are sold as well. Stop playing with us. Stop trying to be slick. We ain't stupid. Go ahead.
And let me add something. All that conversation he had in the beginning was just to lead up to that. Don't let all that other Q&A in the beginning dazzle you. What's on that man's mind right now, his greatest fear, is what's happening right here. So he alluded to that later on. Trust me, I've been watching that man for a long time. And whilst y'all watching the video, look at his face. He fits Genesis. Hairy and red all over, like a hairy garment. Look at him. He's scared. He's just asking him real calm and polite, like how the police are before they shoot you. Sir, do you have your driver's license and your registration? Step over here, please. That's how he is right now in that interview. Go ahead.
Places that are presently the United States of America, more than in other parts of the Americas. Mm-hmm. So definitely, a lot of the group identified as African Americans today have Igbo ancestry. The question now is for us to know who descended, and a few of them have gone ahead to do their DNA studies. And what we see is that they have Igbo roots. We have T.D. Jakes, we have Forrester Whitaker.
That's very fascinating. I mean, we know that Israel isn't, like we mentioned before, pure blood only. It doesn't have to be you are a direct descendant of the house of Israel to be part of the house of Israel, because the Torah is very clear that people can join the house of Israel. But
here we go to cleaving. Here come the cleaving.
You're saying was made up of Igbo. Now today, with all the marrying, everyone marrying each other, we could assume there's Igbo blood scattered throughout the whole African American diaspora. Is that
He's playing it down.
We can assume that because with the intermarriage, they were mixed together. It will be very, very difficult to find an African American that does not have Igbo blood today because the group intermarried.
This is mind-blowing. Now, I'd like to go a little deeper. The African American Hebrew Israelite groups, they identify mainly with this movement. Not mainly, but they say they fulfill a lot of the curses in Deuteronomy in the Bible that says when God's going to curse the children of Israel if they don't listen. They identify with being from the house of Israel because of those curses. What we're trying to suggest here maybe is that could be true, very well true. That's not the only reason that they are from the children of Israel. If you follow where they actually came from, there is a clear trace. I say there's no smoke without a fire. Look where the slave ships came from. Look where they came from. There's Hebrew Israelite culture. There's the people of Israel saying that they're right there.
And Olaude Equiano, whom I'm sure
Equiano was one. He wrote a narrative when he was a slave. He wrote this is before Solomon Northup, and he wrote about how he was snatched out of his land, and he encountered people with red faces in the book. And he goes into discussion of how when he was brought to Britain, he educated himself, he got educated, he bought his own freedom, and he began to do his travels. When he encountered these Khazars, he said, wow, what you guys are doing was what I used to do in my culture. And then you read the book. I have two books. It's called Elodi Iquanu, and it comes in a green hardcover book. And then the revised version comes like this. The revised version leaves out deliberately how when his mother had a menstrual, they would take her to a several house during her uncleanness along with him. Why they removed that part out of the book?
Just real quick, Deacon. Be very, very quick. The point of that we was getting to the video, like Deacon Eythan said, he was making the point that he said, listen, this is the part of the video where it's going to get good at. Because that's exactly like what all of y'all said. When it got to about the Negro in America being the Jews, that's what he's talking about. And he said when that prophecy started coming up, that's when everything got changed. Because that's what the situation is. What y'all got to recognize is that Esau knows, including him, he knows that when the Israelites in America start to wake up, they know that their kingdom is on the way out. Okay, y'all got to think about this here, because they try to make you think that that time is going to continue to go on. How could this man label a section of history the Middle Ages if he didn't know that his end was coming?
And let me add one more thing. Y'all got to think about something. The greatest fear inside of that Edomite is what we're finding out now. The greatest fear inside our people who are ungodly is what we're finding out now. Because when 1/3 of the Israelites wake up to this understanding, the wicked black Israelites are going to die along with them. So you're going to see people who are like us siding with them. Why? They don't care about their Israelite heritage. They want to see America go on forever, and the false identity of the Israelites, they want to see America go on forever. So understand the war that you're in. It's not just them that we're fighting to establish our identity. It's our own people that want to continue wicked lifestyles. They're going to attack too and side with this man. That's what Bible prophecy says.
Because he knoweth that he have but
a short
time.
time.
That's the point that I was making about the Middle Ages.
Yep. Go 10:18. Continue. Watch this. Continue.
May have had access to, spoke about this and wrote about this as far back as the 17th century. This guy was captured at the age of 9 as a slave. He made his way to England, educated himself, bought his freedom. Once he saw the Jews, he said, these are the Igbos. He almost said that these are the Igbos. He compared the traditions, compared the culture, even went as far, I'll be a little bit funny here, he said they wore beards like our ancestors wore their beards.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes, they say it's a recent phenomenon that the people of Israel shave, but hundreds of years ago was not the case.
Everybody's, in Igbo land, everybody's grandfather had beards.
Okay, that's great.
That's it? All right. That's all I want. So let's get, thank you. Let's get, 2 Maccabees. Then you read Ezra 1, verse 1 through 5. King Cyrus to the Persian Empire gave us liberty to return and rebuild the second temple. All right? I'm not going to read it because that's redundant. When you go to Ezra 1 on your own, chapter 1, verse 1 through 5, the Persian king Cyrus, who conquered the Babylonians, gave us liberty to rebuild Jerusalem, the homes that were burned down, the temple that was burned, which is the second temple he was alluding to. All right? And we remained in some, some of us, Judah returned, primarily Judah returned to help rebuild with Nehemiah and Ezra, and remnants of Ephraim, northern kingdom, also helped return and rebuild as well, and resided in their lands. You understand? Their rightful lands. You understand? Based upon Persian proclamation and decree. Let's get 2 Maccabees for those who chose to remain in the scattered lands. 2 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. Show that Israel always resided in Egypt. Always, always, always.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea,
watch this,
wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace.
That are throughout where?
Throughout Egypt, health and peace.
I mean, we wish those in Judah, wish those in Egypt, health and peace throughout Upper and Lower Egypt. Your 2 Maccabees 2 and 23. Regarding the writer of Maccabees itself. 2 Maccabees 2, I think it's verse 23.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 2 and verse 23. All these things, I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books, we will essay to abridge in 1 volume.
So there was a company of men, including Jason of Cyrene. Cyrene is modern-day Libya, which is right next to Africa, in Africa again, of Cyrene. Israel was always there. It was called Cyrenaica, or Tripolis, which is a Greek-speaking province of Jews that resided there, even until Acts 2, where Paul said Libya about Cyrene in Acts 2. That's Cyrenaica. All right? Let's get Babylon Timbuktu, page 83. Page 83. I'm going to try to fly through this. Another hour. Page, Babylon Timbuktu, page 83. We're going to start from the army into page 84, Jewish population.
This is the book of Babylon and Timbuktu.
By Rudolph R. Windsor, who was also a scholar as well. Go ahead, page 83.
Page 83.
The army.
The army of Antiochus marched into Palestine.
This during the time of the Greeks. So that's what Jason of Cyrene was writing about in 2 Maccabees 2 and 23. That history. Go ahead.
To support Menelaus, the leader of the pro-Syrian party.
Menelaus, I believe, was a wicked Israelite that was basically a coon for the Greeks. Go ahead.
As a result, many Jews were killed. Others escaped to the hills and to Egypt. Only those Jews that supported Antiochus' policies remained in Jerusalem.
Those who assimilated were allowed to stay there. Go ahead.
An edict was promulgated interdicting the observance of the holidays.
Stopping the observance of holidays. Go ahead.
The Sabbath and circumcision.
Those are banned. Go ahead.
A statue of Jupiter.
The abomination of desolation that Daniel talked about, that's the statue of Jupiter. Go ahead.
Was erected in the holy temple above the altar.
In the second temple. Go ahead.
To this statue, the people brought the sacrifices of pig meat.
You were forced to eat that.
The animal which is an abomination to the Jews.
Watch this. Read on.
Because of this religious persecution.
Because of this Greek Hellenization forced upon us. Go ahead.
The legitimate high priest, Onias III, and many other Jews fled into African countries.
Fled where?
Fled into African countries.
Go ahead.
Such as Egypt, Ethiopia, and Cyrenaica, Libya.
That's what Jason got there. Jason of Cyrene. Go ahead.
Throughout the last 2,500 years, the main factors that have contributed to the social migration of the Jews were wars, religious persecution, and commerce. All these factors were operating and gave rise to the African Jewish population.
So all these things gave rise to the African Jewish population. Let's jump down to the Jewish philosopher.
The Jewish philosopher Philo, about 40 BC to 40 AD, who lived in Alexandria, Egypt, said that 1 million Jews resided in Libya and Egypt, from the Katabathmos to the borders of Ethiopia.
That's in Philosophies. Go ahead. Some of them. Go ahead.
Professor A.H. Godby says that Philo leaves us doubtful about which boundaries of Ethiopia he meant. I think that Philo meant the western and southern boundaries of Ethiopia, because the prophet Zephaniah mentioned from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
Zephaniah 3 and 10, that goes back to the rivers flowing towards the west, going towards the west. Go ahead.
The daughters of my dispersed. There was a period of over 600 years between Zephaniah and Philo. And considering the new waves of immigrants coming into Africa, they had 600 years to penetrate toward all the borders of Ethiopia.
Go ahead.
E. Schurer wrote that Hebrewism was detectable by its inscriptuous from the Egyptian border westward across North Africa to Mauritania.
Go ahead.
A.H. Godby says Jerome, 340.
That's all I want. So it says from Egypt border westward across North Africa to Mauritania. North Africa to Mauritania. Get a map of Mauritania real quick. Tripoli, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes, right. North Africa to Mauritania. Get the map I have of it, where that is. I think I posted an image of that is. There you go. Mauritania. See that? Right there. Mauritania. And you have right next to it Mali, under it Senegal, Guinea, Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and you have Algeria right there. And right above you have Morocco and Spain. See that? That's Mauritania right there. So from North Africa, you go just further northeast, leads you into Mauritania. That's what you want. Let's go to page page 28. Babylon Timbuktu, page 28.
You want it from the top?
No, I want the Phoenicians established. Yeah, the middle, where it says Sudanese, Africans, the Phoenicians established a colony. I should have it highlighted on the page. Right there, yep, the Phoenicians. Right there.
The Phoenicians established a colony in North Africa called Carthage. And they, the Carthaginians, also considered themselves Canaanites.
Always considered themselves Canaanites. So the original Phoenicians or Carthaginians, remember that earlier in that Dirk Lang's documentary said the trade between the Yoruba and the Phoenician North Africa. Remember that? Hope you do. It says the original Phoenicians or Carthaginians always considered themselves Canaanites because the original inhabitants of that area were Canaanites. Jump down to the Canaanites or Africans. These Canaanites or Africans. Right there. Where's it at? These Canaanites or Africans. That's page 28. Where is it? That ain't there? There it is. Under that small paragraph. Under for when. Go down. There you go.
These Canaanites or Africans were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua.
Boom. That's how they got there. We conquered the land of Canaan. That group of Canaanites was forced to, remember, Israel is where? Located where? And so we forced the Canaanites who were there originally further into the interiors of Africa. You understand? Because Israel starts from Africa and works its way into the eastern regions of the world. You understand? But so we forced Canaan out of there. Further into Africa, they migrated into the north, further north, and south as well. Right? Which would be called the Khoisan people, I believe. Go to page 107. 107, we're going to start at the Phoenicians established and end at Joshua.
The Phoenicians established their metropolis, Carthage, in the 9th century BC.
Go ahead.
Eventually, they conquered the neighboring tribes from Libya to the Atlantic Ocean, disseminating their Hebrew Phoenician language and culture in every direction.
Their language and our language are similar, but not this. But not it was kind of like Spanish and Portuguese. Same roots. You understand. Same thing. Just a different dialect. Go ahead.
The Hebrew Phoenician language and culture were invigorated and strengthened by the deportation and the migration of energetic black Hebrews from Palestine.
You got to put black there because you think it's about white folks. So you got to be redundant terms like black Hebrews. Go ahead.
Ptolemy Soter of Egypt conquered Syria and Phoenicia, deporting more than 100,000 Hebrews. The Persian king Cambyses had previously sanctioned the colonization of Hebrews in Egypt.
See, because he was there. Go ahead.
During the wars of the Maccabees, thousands of Hebrews became slaves and exiles. Ptolemy Latharius captured 10,000 slaves from the region of the Sea of Galilee. The kings of Egypt, Psammetichus I and Psammetichus II, used Israelite garrisons on the Egyptian borders near Libya. The wars with Rome compelled hundreds of thousands more to escape into North Africa.
So wars with Rome caused more of us to flee further into North Africa again. Watch this.
During the Punic Wars.
Go ahead.
And after, North Africa contained a large Hebrew population.
So Carthage North Africa had a large Hebrew population. Go ahead.
This Hebrew population made converts and intermarried with the Canaanites and native Africans.
I mean, we started to mix with them, we became the majority because we took over. It's kind of like Harlem. It was mostly Edom at first, and Jake took over. That's how we do. Move into a place, take over. What they say, Edom say, they go to the neighborhood. Once you find one of us, we take over. You know how we do. Go down. Go to, at the ruins. The city and language. Yeah, until Starbucks shows up and Whole Foods, then we're done. And new bike lanes in the street. The city, go ahead.
The city and language of Hannibal. At the ruins of Carthage, archaeologists have found about 4,000 inscriptions in the ancient language of Canaan.
Which would be Hebrew, go ahead.
Nahum Slouts says these inscriptions date from...
I want that. Yeah, I think I got that page. You have it right there? The other side? Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
Date from the time of Nehemiah.
Persia.
Of Simon the Just.
Greece.
Of Hannibal and of Hasdrubal.
Rome.
Says Slouts.
Slouts, yeah.
And most valuable of all, we have found again the ancient language and writing of Canaan, the rich idiomatic speech of a city which once counted 700,000 inhabitants. And we Hebrew writers, we who write and feel in our biblical tongue, have recognized at once that this recalled Phoenician language is nothing more nor less than Hebrew. A pure Hebrew dialect, nearly the same as was spoken in the country of Israel.
That's how you know Israel became the majority at this point in that land. Watch this.
The population of Carthage was derived from Palestine, and its civilization was Hebraic in origin.
So when the Canaanites fled over there, Israel went over there too, but more of us is over there. More of us fled amongst them. We were the majority even in its beginning, we were the majority. In its end, we were the majority. So when the Syrian Empire came along, we fled into Africa, we fled there. Then the Babylonian captivity came along, we fled there also. You understand? The same way Christ and Joseph and Mary fled to Egypt with Christ, when Herod tried to kill him, it's because we knew people, we can blend in. We were there. Go ahead.
Slouches is certain, after much research, that the language Hannibal spoke and in which he directed his troops was Hebrew.
He was a Hebrew himself. Go ahead.
There was evidence that the Carthaginians possessed a high priesthood.
That's how you know the Carthaginians went from being Canaanites to being what? Because we became what? The majority. Exactly. Go ahead.
There is evidence that the Carthaginians possessed a high priesthood, and their ceremonies and sacrifices were similar to the rituals found in the book of Leviticus.
Because we maintained our oral traditions. Go ahead.
According to some inscriptions, the Hebrew tribes of Asher and Zebulun.
That's in that book, Jewish Diaspora mentions that Zebulun and Gad and all of them went into that area and they had trade relations. Go ahead.
The Hebrew tribes of Asher and Zebulun.
So Hannibal came from one of those two. One of those two. He was Northern Kingdom. Go ahead.
The Hebrew tribes of Asher and Zebulun were in Carthage from the foundation of the city.
From the very beginning, they were there. So when Israel forced the Canaanites out of there into North Africa during the time of David and Solomon, we start to go over there also. And take over. Go ahead.
At the ruins of Carthage were excavated many inscriptions containing many Hebrew names such as Joab, Joash, and Joel.
Go ahead.
The city of Tunis is said to be neither Arab nor European. Tunis is a Jewish city. Nowhere else does the Jew feel at home as he does in Tunis.
That's why we always fled there. Always. That's why there was trade going on amongst the Yorubas and them from that area. The Phoenician North African trade route, because it was the same people dealing with each other. Remember, we fled into Assyria, we established Yoruba, the empire there, or you have Benin. Benin's a corrupt way of saying sons of Ephraim. Ben Ephraim, that's what it means. Which is around the Yoruba also, which would be Benin.
Benin is a neighboring country to the west of Yorubas.
Right, to the west, thank you. So now let's go to this book here, The Story of Civilization. The Story of Civilization by Volume 3, Caesar and Christ by Will Durant. This book here. No cover, side. It's called The Story of Civilization 3, Caesar and Christ by Will Durant. We want to go to page 39. And I said to y'all, pay attention to the word Phoenician. You're going to stand that for a while. And Carthage. Page 39. And I want the Semitic settlers. No, classic tradition. Classic tradition. I want that first. Classic tradition. Where the lines are. Just blow it up. You can kind of 39. You know 39? I didn't give you that. I think I did give it. I wrote that down. I'm going to read it. It's called Hannibal against Rome, 264 to 202. This is during the time of Rome with Hannibal. It says, the Semitic settlers at these posts married some of the natives and bribed the rest to peace. These Semitic settlers at these posts married some of the natives and bribed the rest to peace. That's us, Semitic settlers. We're Semitic. About 813 BC, 9th century, a new group of colonists, perhaps from Phoenicia, who came later on, perhaps from expanding Utica, built their homes upon a promontory 10 miles northwest of modern Tunis. All right? Classic tradition described the founding of the city to Alyssa, or Dido, the daughter of the king of Tyre. That's Canaanites. Thank you. It says, her husband having been slain by her brother, she had sailed with other adventurous souls to Africa. So, according to tradition, this woman here, when she got there was already Semites dwelling there, and she established her kingdom there. You understand? Well, we were there first. Asher and Zebulun were there since the foundation of the city. Remember that? And this queen of Tyre, named Elisa, dwelt there as well. And we intermingled. Of course, we were the majority. We intermingled and so forth. All right? You have it now? Oh, okay. It says here, she sailed, her husband having been slain by her brother, she sailed with other adventurous souls to Africa. Her settlement was called Kart Hadasht, New Town, to distinguish it from Utica, which is in the same area, Utica. The Greeks transformed the name into Carchedon, the Romans into Carthago, which goes into the word English, Carthage. All right? The Latins gave the name Africa to the region around Carthage and Utica. So the Romans named that continent, just that portion, Africa. And over time, they named the entire continent Africa. Because when they conquered that portion of Carthage, they said, we'll name it Scipius Africanus, Africa after his conquest. Then over time, they named the entire mainland. That looks like Amerigo Vespucci. He discovered the mainland, North America. Now the entire place is called after him. You understand? Same exact thing. All right? So now, let's get page 41 that you have already. Because y'all already read it already. Y'all taking. It's all right. Page 41. Page 41, thank you. Page 41.
You want from the top?
I want when it says the Carthaginians
were Semites, right?
Hold on, I got a line next to it. Page 41, it should say the Carthaginians were Semites.
Right
there, yep.
The Carthaginians were Semites.
There we go. Now remember, I said earlier that they were of Canaanites, remember? So we know that Israel moved there, we became the majority, so we became known as Carthaginians, based upon what the Greeks called it, Carthago. Go ahead.
The Carthaginians were Semites.
Watch this.
Akin in blood and features.
Akin in blood and features. Go ahead.
To the ancient Jews.
Akin in blood, that's all I wanted. Akin in blood and features to the ancient Jews. To the ancient Jews. Why? Because over time, Israel start to mingle and our features begin to vary. Like in this very room. Go ahead.
Their language now and then struck a Hebraic note.
Just like Rudolph R. Windsor said in his book. Go ahead.
And when it called the chief magistrates shofets, the Hebrew shofetim, or judges.
Judges, go ahead. That's what they called our leaders. Go ahead.
The men grew beards.
Like they did among the Igbos. Go ahead.
But usually shaved their upper lip with bronze razors.
We have razor blades too. Go ahead.
Most of them wore a fez or a turban,
Go ahead, mingling themselves to different cultures. Go ahead.
shoes or sandals,
Right, that's what we wore. Go ahead.
and a long, loose gown.
Go ahead. Your long garments down to the foot.
But the upper classes adopted the Greek style of dress.
So the upper classes of them, remember, Ephraim does all the time, assimilate. We adopted the Greek fashion as well. Watch this. Watch what we did.
Dyed their robes with purple.
We dyed our robes with purple. That's nice color. Go ahead.
And fringed them with glass beads.
What do we do to our garments?
And fringed them with glass beads.
That's what Carthaginians do. Fringe them with glass beads. That's all I want. Go ahead.
The women led for the most part a veiled and secluded life. They could rise to high place in the priesthoods, but otherwise had to be content with the sovereignty of their charms.
So that shows that the woman, the same way now you see these women trying to move up for position, they were trying it back then.
Yep.
Okay? And he's showing you right there. It says that the woman led for the most part veiled and secluded life. Okay? They had a place, an order. They could rise to high places in priesthood, but otherwise had to be contented with the sovereignty of their charms, what they were trying to do. The same thing you see these black women evangelists trying to do right now. Okay? Trying to charm the people into getting a position in the church. No different. Juanita Bynum, all these other loudmouth black priests, women you see on TV, screaming loud. He's telling you, and what year was this?
This is second century.
Second
BC?
Century BC?
Yeah,
200.
200. That's during the time of
Yes,
Rome.
understand, this is 200 years before Christ came on the scene. 200 years before.
No, before the 9th century, because this is before Hannibal. This is long before Hannibal. Like around
Okay?
900.
So that's a long time further back. And you got to compare that to where we are today.
Yeah, time of the Greeks.
Okay?
That time. 300s.
The time of the Greeks.
200s, 300s. Let's go to page 11. African presence in early Europe. That's what I'm going to. African presence in early Europe. Page 11. Remember, it said that the Carthaginians were akin in blood and features to the ancient Jews, right? Page 11 of a book called African Presence in Early Europe. That's St. Maurice right there. He's everywhere. St. Maurice. There we go again. He's everywhere.
I point to the new skeletal evidence in Carthage at the height of its power.
When Hannibal's there, go ahead.
In the time of Hannibal, which establishes it as largely Africoid in a physical sense and largely African in a cultural sense.
Stop. So if they were Africoid in a physical sense, and they were in akin in features and blood to the ancient Jews, that means the ancient Jews were black. You understand? Go ahead.
Heretofore, it has always been claimed to be a mere extension of the Phoenician or Punic Empire.
Of the Phoenician or Punic Empire. Go ahead.
I look critically at terms like, quote, Moor, Arab, Berber, and Libyan, which mean entirely different things to different historians, and which have been used indiscriminately as racially, culturally, or geographically discrete entities.
Go ahead.
The confusion springs at times from an innocence of the multiple mixings and movements in Northern Africa and Europe, but more often than not from a deliberate attempt to deny the African any major role in the world's great civilizations. Yes, sir. The confusion springs at times from an innocence of the multiple mixings and movements in Northern Africa and Europe.
That's what the guy Derek Lang was saying earlier regarding the historians putting up barriers and so forth to make it hard when you dig for the truth. Go ahead.
But more often than not, from a deliberate attempt to deny the African any major role in the world's great civilizations.
They tried to deny the features and the blackness of the heroes of old time, of great civilizations of old, by using terms like, oh, he was a Moor, or he was an Arab, or he was Berber, or he was Libyan.
So
those are blanketed terms.
Right. So some of the historians, what do? They manufactured confusion.
Yep. Go to page 41. No, page 138. I'm sorry. Page 138. 138. I'm sorry. 138. I'm somewhere else. Page 138. Now, let's take a look at these pictures here. Blow it up some. Now that coin right there. Now Hannibal, his greatest victory was when he crossed the Alps with the elephants and conquered Edom, conquered Spain, and ruled over it for about 15 years. He conquered Sicily, I believe, or Spain. Conquered Spain, right? And we had our own money. We minted our own money, and we put his face on the coin. That's it right there. That's his face right there, because he was ruled around. He was given power around. He was in his 20s. So that's him, younger him, and you see that the elephant there. He crossed the Alps with them. See that? See that? Take a look at it. That's the actual coin itself. There we go. That's the actual coin that they found. See that? Boom. Clear as day. Look at the hair, look at the lips, the nose. In a kin and blood and features to the ancient Israelites, ancient Jews. Go to page 139. Stop. But nevertheless, yep.
Nevertheless, there are some extremely interesting pictorial representations which appear on Carthaginian coins.
That's a Carthaginian coin. Go ahead.
In the time of Hannibal. There is a fine reproduction of it in Professor Frank Snowden's book, Blacks in Antiquity.
That's where that page comes from. That's where that page comes from. That little thing you saw earlier, page 138, that's from that book. Go ahead.
Here we have a type which gels with Professor Gesell's skeletal evidence and which is identified as to period and purpose by the depiction of the African elephant on the other side of the coins.
Go ahead.
As we all know, Hannibal performed the greatest military feat of ancient times by the use of African elephants.
Yep.
Africans also were in the van of the army of the Carthaginians.
Yeah, because he had them amongst us. Go ahead.
Now known to be a largely Africoid people. Yet Snowden claims that these are representations of some of Hannibal's manhouts.
Oh, so mahouts.
Mahouts.
So, which will be elephant drivers, I believe. He says that that's not Hannibal's picture. That's a picture of Hannibal's servant that rides the animal, rides the elephant. That's his theory. What? So Hannibal, the leader, puts his servant's face on a coin.
That's that manufactured confusion again. That's what I was talking about. They put stuff like that to throw you off.
Yet Snowden, read again. Yet Snowden what? Claims. Yet Snowden claims.
Yet Snowden claims that these are representations of some of Hannibal's mahouts, elephant riders, while other Africanist historians claim this is Hannibal himself.
It is Hannibal himself. Go ahead. Watch. You're going to prove it.
The Carthaginians rarely used coins or statue or stelae to depict a figure not in the pantheon of gods or in the aristocratic hierarchy.
Or in power. They would not put a servant on a coin. They put either their gods they worship or those in power over them on the coins. Like Hannibal himself. That's all I want. I don't need nothing else. Lying bastards.
Right. That's a testament to, like, I'm trying to remember the exact book. It was one of the books that Bishop brought out by Harvard. And they said an Ethiopian. That's what they put. And it was really talking about Severus Septimius.
Yep.
But they did not want to tell you that's who that was. So they just said, oh, a bust of an Ethiopian.
Yeah.
BS. That was actually him.
That's
they didn't
why
just put up an Ethiopian and make a bust out of him.
Yeah, for no reason.
They don't do that.
Let's just do it.
That's why when somebody engage you in a conversation and they start telling you that their sources is the History Channel, just end the conversation. It's all lies. They don't know nothing. There's nothing on TV that's going to teach you what you're learning here. Okay? We have to disseminate all the information that they have. We have to chop it up and take it apart and see what lines up with the scriptures. And they're not going to do that. Because if they do that, it proves one thing. What? What does it prove? Who we are. All these lies and all these mazes and places they're taking you through is to keep you from finding out who you are.
Right.
The exact point what Deacon Asaph and Deacon Eythan is showing, look at this book here. Who in the world would even look at a book like this here in a library or in a bookstore, you would just like Deacon Asaph is saying that brothers have to go and decipher the information out of these books to bring them to you. Because most people wouldn't even look at a book like this here. What's the name of this book? Caesar and Christ. Will Durant. You walk past this like it was just a pillar in the building. You wouldn't even pick this up.
Mm-hmm. Deacon, you remember about 20 years ago, you took me to Strand's bookstore. This is when he was first introducing me into. This was 1997, 21 years ago. Remember that?
Yes,
we went
sir.
directly after work, because he was the one that started me with my book collection. He sent me there to get some book, and I wasn't taking it as serious as he was. He said, "Listen, don't leave the store without it. When you come back for it, it's gonna be gone." Guess what? That was from me leaving the store and coming to his car to tell him the book was there. When I came back in the store, the book was gone. Okay, because he told me, when you go in there, the workers, they're going to follow you around, and they're going to go to what section in there. I didn't believe him. We had just met. Okay, so I didn't really know nothing. I'm nigga off the street learning about God. So he was telling me, look, buy this book, buy it. He was encouraging me. And from the time it took for me to go in the store, look up, because remember, you couldn't find parking. Right. When you go to Manhattan, you got to sit with your car. You'll get ticketed. So I got the books that I think we went there to get the one about Caesar Borgia. Okay, that's the one we went. But he started naming other books. So I told him, yeah, that one is in there. They was removing the books off the shelves.
They don't believe you.
Okay, I'm
it's
telling
just
you.
like that.
With my own eyes, you was able to walk into any Barnes & Noble and readily get an Apocrypha. They were like $8 or $7. Now you go in there, they want to know, what do you want it for? Okay, and there was a book that I showed y'all online about who is Esau. You know that book was $12, $9.99. How much they want for it now? Almost $4,000 for a paperback piece of garbage book, because they realize we waking up to who we are.
Go to page 216 in a book called Fossilized Customs. Now, this guy writes a lot of information. He puts information out there. Some of it's good, some of it is his conspiracy stuff, but he does introduce a lot of historical points in this book, so I use it for that. All right? A lot of the stuff he has in here is backed up by history, which I use first. That's why I went through the history books first. Page 216, it's called Fossilized Customs by Lou White. It's edition 9th edition. Page 216, blow it up. Los Lunas Covenant Stone. I think that's found in Mexico. Rio Grande. New Mexico. Go ahead. Read that.
Los Lunas Covenant Stone, an ancient artifact of Israel found in North America near Rio Grande. The photograph at the bottom of this page shows the 10 Commandments written in the primary Paleo-Hebrew script, written on a large stone found in the 1800s at Los Lunas, New Mexico, near Rio Grande.
Go ahead, watch this.
This stone carving could be 3,000 years old, and it contains the name Yahuwah. It was in obedience to Deuteronomy 6.
It's the laws on there. The laws written on there, on their gates. That's the entrance into their kingdom. Entrance. I'm gonna gates to your home, so you put it. Go ahead.
As we are, write them on our doorposts and on our gates.
That's what they would do. Go ahead.
This stone was at the entrance to an ancient colony or settlement of the Israelites that had navigated up the Rio Grande.
Settlement of what?
Settlement of Israelites.
Oh.
That had navigated up the Rio Grande.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The style of the letter Yod used on the stone.
Yod.
That's what
Go ahead.
That's the style. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The style of the letter Yod used on the stone indicates that the Israelites of the northern 10 tribes, Samaritans, were in North America.
Oh, go ahead.
It could have been inscribed on this stone as early as 9th century BCE, during the reign of King Solomon.
Yeah, that's their thought, but it's not true. It came around 500. That's around Persian captivity. Go ahead.
Or as late as 146 BCE, when the Carthaginians, Israelites, were conquered by Rome.
See? Carthaginians, Israelites. Go ahead.
Many diasporas occurred, but we now know that Israel was mostly a sea empire. And they were called Phoenicians by the Greeks.
They were called Phoenicians. They were called Phoenicians by the Greeks. Go ahead.
Yes, the Phoenicians were Israelites.
Uh-huh.
They didn't call themselves Phoenicians.
Uh-huh.
Herodotus, 5th century BCE, called them that.
The Greeks called them that. Go ahead.
The Israelites traveled the oceans of the world as they mined tin, copper, gold, and iron. Did you know that the distance from the western coast of Africa to South America is less than the width of the Mediterranean Sea?
Watch this.
Columbus didn't discover the Americas. Israelites were already living here, and many became what are now referred to as, quote, Native Americans.
All right. That's the picture right there, the stone. Deuteronomy 6 all over it. Let's get page 84, Babylon Timbuktu. So Israelites are in Africa as well as the Americas, like the class states. Page 84, after the fall. I want that. Hold on a second. 85. 85. Babylon Timbuktu, 85. After the fall, yeah, the Carthaginian, right there. Right there, after the fall at the bottom. Go down. Right there, after the fall.
After the fall of the Carthaginian metropolis in North Africa, Roman power became dominant in the Barbary states. Under Roman suzerainty and power, the Jews of Asia and North Africa rebelled. AD 115.
Because there was a whole bunch of us. Before we had numbers, we can beat the Romans. That didn't work out. Go ahead.
The Jews considered themselves numerous enough to challenge Roman authority in the east and the south.
Because remember, you had Ephraim and Judah together in that land, living there. Go ahead.
Because of their numbers, the Jews almost subdued their adversaries.
But it wasn't a part of the prophecy. We lost. Go ahead.
Who had compelled them to suffer many atrocities and indignities. Emperor Trajan sent his general, Turbo, to bring law and order. Instead of bringing law and order, the act of suppression of the insurrection brought a massacre. The suppression of rebellion under the slogan, quote, law and order may be good.
Go ahead.
But a good thing may be carried too far. So it was in this case. The pagans and the Romans attacked the Jews indiscriminately, both the Jewish soldiers and the uninvolved peaceful population without mercy. As a result of this merciless attack, many Jews fled to those parts of Northwest Africa known as Tunisia.
Fled where?
To those parts of Northwest Africa known as Tunisia.
North Africa.
Algeria. Morocco and Mauritania.
Mauritania again. Showed you the map of that earlier. Go ahead.
Many other Jews fled to the areas where Rome did not have any jurisdiction.
Go ahead.
This was to the region of the south, the Sahara Desert, and the Sudan.
And the Sudan. Go ahead.
Grazel says.
That's all I want. That's all I want. Grazel says. I have his book also. I don't have his, I'm going to get it next week. I don't have it yet. Go to page 88. Page 88. And at the same time. At the same time. '88. You have it there? Right there at the same time.
At the same time that the Jews were migrating westward across the Sudan from Ethiopia, they also migrated southward from Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco to the fertile region between the Senegal and Niger rivers. When the Jews from the north and the east met between these two rivers, they established a confluence or crossroad in the West Africa.
Trade. Go ahead.
Where men could exchange their culture, ideas, and merchandise.
Go ahead.
These Jewish migrations went on with great
frequency. Page 89. Go ahead.
With great frequency about 300 AD. And they continued with the utmost regularity for 1,200 years.
How long?
1,200 years.
Go ahead.
Joseph J. Williams points out the course of the Jewish migration from northeastern Africa.
Go ahead.
He writes that the Jews migrated up the Nile, passing Memphis, Elephantine, Khartoum, and then they turned west at Kordofan in central Sudan. In the region of the White Nile, Williams thinks some Jews settled in the country of Shilluk in the southern Sudan and Uganda. He continues by tracing the migration from Kordofan going west to Darfur, Lake Chad, Kano, and then to the countries of the Niger River.
Zephaniah 3 and 10. Let's go to Luke 21, real quick. Luke 21, verse 20.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
Go to Africa, mountains, go ahead.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Depart out, go ahead.
And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Those who are scattered throughout the countries don't come thereinto, go ahead.
For these be the days of vengeance.
Of Deuteronomy 28, days of vengeance, go ahead.
That all things which are written
in Deuteronomy 28, go ahead.
Must be fulfilled.
Must happen, go ahead.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
The time of the land is up. Let's go to, I sent you an image of a page from a book on the group me. Look at it. Cut it shorter. Go to, I sent you a page from a book called History of the Jews by Solomon Grazel. That's who Woodrow Windsor was quoting earlier about Grazel says.
A further increase in Jewish numbers came as a result of the defeat of the Jews by Rome in 70 CE.
That's 70 AD. That's what Christ talked about in Luke 20. Go ahead.
So large was the Jewish population of Cyrenaica,
Libya,
in the next generation, that in the ill-fated uprising of 115 to 117,
regarding that guy Turbo in Woodrow Windsor's book, Turbo, we try to fight against the Romans. Go ahead.
The Jews almost overcame their pagan neighbors.
Go ahead.
And the Roman armies, Rome's fearful vengeance caused many to flee further west from the territory then known.
Into the territory, further west into the territory.
Into the territory then known as Mauritania.
West Africa. Go ahead.
And now as Tunisia.
North Africa.
Algeria. And Morocco.
Go ahead.
Other Jews from former population of Cyrenaica fled completely beyond the reach of Rome into the desert to the south.
You said earlier, go ahead.
Such is the explanation how the Sahara Desert
first acquired
Jewish tribes toughened by a fighting tradition and possessed of physical characteristics, which it is said still make
them approximate
very closely the original Jewish population of Palestine.
The Afro-Palestinians. They still, that's them, what she's talking about, them living there. Let's go to, let's skip down, I'm going to jump down. Let's go to page 90 of Babylon Timbuktu. Then I'm going to jump to another book real fast. Be quick, almost done. Page 90. Let's see how I want. 90. Hold on. I want the Jews came into the Western Sudan. We're going to stop at death.
The Jews came into the Western Sudan from northern and eastern Africa as a result of the chain of commercial and persecutory migration.
By Rome and so forth. Go ahead.
The Jews had settled among the most civilized people throughout the ages. They adopted new methods from other people and left their material, educational, and moral imprint among the people with whom they resided.
You left behind an impression. Go ahead.
For many centuries, the Hebrews had to employ great physical and psychological initiative.
Go ahead.
They could not afford to be complacent.
Sit around, do nothing. Go ahead.
Or apathetic.
You know what that word apathetic means? It means no concern for anybody else but yourself. No concern, no care, just about themselves. Stay themselves. Which is completely opposite of what? Assimilation. Go ahead.
They were hated.
That's why, because we were hated, like we are today. Go ahead.
So apathy.
So concern for other people, assimilation. Go ahead.
Could mean cultural stagnation.
Like we're suffering now.
Or death.
See how our mindset was? See how our mindset was back then? Yep. In Africa? Concern yourself with your own people. Otherwise, it's going to cause complacency and death. Let's go to page 453. Jewish diaspora, real fast. Jewish diaspora, page 453. I gotta cut it. 453. I want that. Yeah, according to. Stop at Titus. Yep, right there.
Legends of Semitic migrations into the Maghreb.
North Africa.
According to most accounts, the earliest Israeli settlements in Africa were in places such as Egypt, Tunisia, and Ethiopia. Historians believe these settlements may have been in existence as early as the kingdoms of David and Solomon.
That's what they got there. Go ahead.
As well as during the Assyrian invasion of northern Israel in 722 BCE and the Babylonian captivity of Judah in 586 BCE. In the Punic Carthaginian age, these communities were augmented by subsequent arrivals of Jews after the destruction of the Second Jerusalem Temple in 70 CE.
Here we go, go ahead.
When 30,000 Jewish slaves by the Roman Emperor Titus.
So it was settled, they made that place a plantation. They turned Carthage into a plantation for Jews, the Romans. All right? Let's go to Igbo people, Wikipedia. We'll go down to transatlantic trade. I'm gonna skim through this fast, I can do it fast. Go down to slavery. Igbo people, go down to slavery. Or transatlantic slave trade. History. It's coming up, it's coming up. Right there. Now we're gonna go to contrary to. Contrary to common belief. Regarding the Igbo people, watch this, right there. Right there, right there.
Contrary to common belief, European slave traders.
Hold on, Edomite slave traders, go ahead.
Were fairly well informed about various African ethnicities.
They were fairly well informed about various African races or races within the land of Africa. How are they well informed? Based upon who conquered them first. The Arabs and Africans that were there rounded us up after they conquered us and sold us to them and told us who was who and what was what. Read again, contrary.
Contrary to common belief, European slave traders were fairly well informed about various African ethnicities.
Watch this.
Leading to slaves targeting certain ethnic groups, which plantation owners preferred.
Why would they prefer particular ethnic groups to replenish who they conquered on this side of the world? When they conquered Asher, they said, okay, bring more Asher over there. When they conquered Ephraim, bring more Ephraim from over there and replenish those. I'm gonna show you. Go ahead.
Particularly desired ethnic groups consequently became fairly concentrated in certain parts of the Americas.
Fairly concentrated means they had to replenish what they conquered in fairly concentrated areas of the Americas. Go ahead.
The Igbo were dispersed to colonies such as Jamaica, Cuba,
that's go ahead.
Saint Domingue, Barbados, the United States, Belize, and Trinidad and Tobago, among others.
Contrary to common belief, they knew who they were taking and where and why. It wasn't just grab the niggas, just grab that one over there.
Look at the places.
No, that's not what happened. That's fairy tales.
Look at the places that you named. That's the 12 tribes chart.
Yep.
Right.
I'll take it further. Let's go to Afro-Puerto Ricans. Wikipedia. We're gonna start where it says first Africans in Puerto Rico. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna prove to you that they knew where to take them. It's just say first Africans in Puerto Rico, according to the historian. Go down. According to the historian, it's just say it soon. Go down for the Doctor de las Casas. He documented it as well.
According to historian Luis M. Diaz,
watch this.
The largest contingent of African slaves came from the areas of the present-day Gold Coast, Nigeria, and Dahomey.
Dahomey was a Hamite that conquered us in our own kingdom and sold us out of our kingdom. Watch this.
and the region known as the area of Guineas,
That's this.
together known as the Slave Coast.
That's the kingdom of Judah was. Kingdom of Judah. Watch this.
The vast majority were Yorubas.
Stop. Afro Puerto Ricans, the vast majority of them were what?
Were Yorubas.
Why Yorubas? Because that's where Ephraim was. They had to replenish what they conquered. I'll show you. Keep going. Vast majority were what?
The vast majority were Yorubas.
First, go ahead.
And Igbo.
Because you had Ephraim mixed among Igbos. Go ahead.
Ethnic groups from Nigeria and Bantus.
And the Bantus. Go ahead.
From the Guineas.
Watch this.
The number of slaves in Puerto Rico rose from 1,500 in 1530 to 15,000 by 1555.
25 years. Because we knew each other. Hey, Ephraim. They intermarried immediately because they was the same people. So they knew where to place them. Put them over there, they go over there, put them over here. They knew what that's what it says, contrary to popular belief, they were focused on targeting particular groups and fairly concentrated in these areas. And it mentions Cuba. I'll go further. So it says the vast majority were Yorubas. Go to CubaJunkie.com. CubaJunkie.com. We're going to go to Yoruba, Cuba's transformation. Cuba's transformation. It starts from there. And we're going to end that of Cuba. Shit coming up, keep going. That's the number of them being shipped over. Struggle, Cuba's transformation. Gotta find that part. Right there, under Yoruba. Under Yoruba. Read that, please.
Yoruba. Cuba's transformation into a sugar-growing island is intimately linked via the slave trade to African history. It coincided with the collapse of the Oyo Empire.
With the collapse of the Oyo Empire. That's Yoruba there. Go ahead.
Of Nigeria, after decades of internal strife.
Us fighting amongst each other. And the heathens, hold on, and the heathens use that against us. Likewise on this side of the world. Natives fighting against each other, Esau used it against us. Go ahead.
Among the Yoruba and wealth and warfare with their Fulani neighbors. To the north and the Homians to the west.
The Hamites. They used the Hamites to fight against us, each other, and then the Hamites to overthrow them. In the process, go ahead.
Many Yoruba were taken to Cuba very late in the
Many Yoruba were taken to where?
Were taken to Cuba.
That's Manasseh among them. Go ahead.
Very late in the slave trade, especially during the years 1820 to 1840, when they formed a majority of, quote, of Africans sent across the Atlantic.
They were the majority of Africans sent across to replenish Cuba, because they conquered Manasseh on this side. That's why you had oftentimes, rarely you had mestizos. They died. You had a lot of mestizas, meaning Spaniard fathers and native mothers had daughters, and they would give the males, they were shipped over to them to make more, and they buried in features over time, from real light to dark. Go ahead.
From the ports of the Bight of Benin.
From the ports of where?
Of the Bight of Benin.
Because Benin means sons of Ephraim once again. This is brothers. Ephraim and Manasseh are brothers. Go ahead.
The included several Yoruba-speaking subgroups, included the Ketu, Ijesha, Ibado, Oyo, Nago, and others.
All another kingdom. Go ahead.
In Cuba, Yoruba speakers became known by the collective term Lukumi, after a Yoruba phrase, Okulumi, meaning my friend, as a result of slavery.
Go ahead.
The lineages and kin groups that had supported worship of the various Onisha were disrupted.
Onisha, go ahead.
A new religion called Santeria arose, which grouped many together, Orisha, each of which became identified with a Catholic saint, on whose day festivals would be held.
What we do, we took what we got from the Hamites and merged it into Catholicism, just as Levi does. Yep. Go ahead.
From the ethnically based cabildos of colonial Cuba, Santeria became organized into individual houses, known as casas de ocha. It has since spread far beyond its original ethnic base, both within and outside of Cuba.
So the majority of Yorubas were taken to Puerto Rico, Cuba, because Esau knew where the kingdoms were and how to replenish them. Because the Hamites and the Israelites said, listen, we conquered you over here, we conquered Edom over here, Asher over there, bring them over there. It wasn't just mixed match and just throw Judah over there and throw Benjamin over. No, that's how it happened. That's not what the Bible says. You understand? Real quick, get me, I gotta move faster. Get me Negro Land. Remember I told y'all to remember the Conan Bornu map I showed you? The red circle there?
Yes.
Go to Negro Land. Looks familiar? Because Conan Bornu's right in the middle where Negro Land is. It's right there. Benin's right there. Slave Coast right there with the kingdom of Judah. Biafra, right. Now, go to Negro Land, Wikipedia. Negro Land. Wikipedia Negro Land, real quick. That's a map right there. Keep that in mind. Same map right there on there. This read from the top. This is short. Negro Land or Negritia.
Negro land or Negritia was an archaic term in European mapping.
Old term, but they gave the land. That Europeans gave it. Go ahead.
Describing the inland and poorly explored region in West Africa as an area populated with Negro people.
As an area populated with Negro people. Watch this.
This area comprised at least the western part of the region called Sudan, not to be confused with the modern country. The term is probably a direct translation of the Arabic term Bilad al-Sudan, meaning, quote, land of the blacks.
Now I want you to go to Bilad al-Sudan. Go there. Click, go to, type that in Wikipedia also. We can't click it. Bilad al-Sudan. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we don't. It's right there in the bottom, it's right there. There were various kinds of people.
There were various kinds of people in the area, including Jews of Bilad el-Sudan.
There you go, in Negro Land. Various kinds of people, including Jews of Bilad el-Sudan. Go ahead.
Some of the greatest states of those considered part of Negro Land were the Bornu Empire.
Conan Bornu Empire, where we fled to during the Assyrian Babylonian captivity. Go ahead.
And the Sokoto Caliphate.
Muslims. Click Jews of Bilad el-Sudan. Look right there, same place. On the map, Songhai Empire. Gao, it's right there, Timbuktu right above it. It's redundant. Read that, describes West African.
Jews of Bilad el-Sudan describes West African Jewish communities who were connected to known Jewish communities from the Middle East, North Africa, or Spain and Portugal.
During the Inquisition, we fled from Spain and Portugal into that area. A lot of us who are converted to Islam fled Christianity out of Spain into West Africa. They got enslaved by the Arabs that were already in Africa. So we fled from the white man's hands into Arab hands. They got sold to the white man anyway. Vicious circle. The curses will overcome you and overtake you. Like he said in Deuteronomy 28. Can't escape them, no matter where you run. Read that. Various historical
records attest to their presence at one time in the Ghana, Mali.
Next to Ghana, on the left-hand side is Mauritania. Go ahead.
Mali and Songhai Empire.
And the Songhai Empires. You read that earlier, seen it numerous times. Go ahead. There's Conan Bornu Empires, or Songhai. Go ahead.
Then called the Bilad al-Sudan.
So it's called, those areas are called the Bilad el-Sudan, which means what?
The land of the blacks.
It means the land of the blacks. Jews from Spain and Portugal, Morocco, in later years also formed communities of the coast of Senegal and the islands of Cape Verde. Jews from there made these places up, and they were sold from those places as well. And then you know what color they were. And it says these communities continue to exist for hundreds of years, but have since disappeared due to changing of social conditions, persecution, migration, and assimilation, just like Dirk Lang stated. It's redundant. Let's get Second Maccabees 15 verse 9. That's why when the elder had brought a class way back about the people, the modern slave trade taking place in areas of Algeria and so forth. Even earlier it says, contrary to popular belief, they knew who they were taking. So many of the modern slave trade now consists of primarily peoples of the western regions of Africa, because they know who they're dealing with. They know who they're selling even till now. Because Israel resided in Algeria. Israel resided in Tunisia, in those areas. They still do today, just remnants of them. Wow. 2 Maccabees 15, verse 9.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 15 and verse 9. And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful. And when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen.
What did he do?
Showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen.
That's the next class. I'm showing y'all the falsehood of the heathen. How they come and they lie and make things up about our history with the maybes and the could-bes and the kindas. It's all nonsense. Lost, dispersed, assimilated. I'm showing you that this is the falsehood of the heathens. Get Luke verse 8:17.
The falsehood of the heathen. And you're done, I'm going to say something.
Yeah. Luke 8:17.
The book of Luke, chapter 8 and verse 17.
Yep.
No man, when he hath lighted a candle, covereth it with a vessel, or putteth it under a bed, but setteth it on a candlestick, that they which enter in may see the light. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest.
Read it again.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest.
You can't hide all that tonight from us. You cannot hide it. The Most High wants it to come out, and it's coming out slowly, speedily and quickly. Not even slowly anymore. It's escalating now. To the point where these heathen are getting scared, they're getting desperate, they're using our own people against us, and it's not working. We don't care.
Exactly.
We're going to just keep teaching the people, bringing out more and more facts, bringing out more books you're going to raise the price on after I bring it out. It's going to be $1 billion tomorrow now. But it's all right, because the truth is still going to spread regardless. All right?
It's so hard to serve God. And why when I say that I'm a Jew, it sound odd. For years I've been walking around saying that I'm a black man. I ain't saying that no more, it sounds wrong, man.
This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcast, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www